Let's reduce that. Oops, is that still recording? Yes, okay. All right, so for development in Java and web development, I like to use Eclipse. Okay, this is the latest version of Eclipse that I've downloaded and installed on my local machine. For a database, I'm using MySQL, and you can download MySQL. Download MySQL. And there's a community version, right, which is free. Right, install. You can just install that for your particular platform. Okay, select platform. Why aren't you letting me select platform? MIS. It's broken. Anyway, I downloaded the Mac version. It's running right now on my machine. And the system preferences, it installs the system preferences. And here it is. It says that it's running. Okay, it allows you to stop and start MySQL Server, or you can configure it so that it starts whenever your machine starts up. Okay, if you're going to be doing a lot of database development, perhaps you might want that, right? When your machine starts, it starts with it. Also, I also downloaded Workbench, MySQL Workbench. Yes. Well, typically, if you're in a team, I would suggest that you all have it running on your local machine, and you're sharing the source in some repository, right? And so you share the repository, and everybody every day, downloads, synchronizes with the repository, so everybody has the same code, right? And everybody pushes to the same repository, so that everybody has the same, so everybody has a copy of everything. Yes. Yes. Right. Yes. Yeah, you should all have identical development environments. Okay. So Workbench is just a tool that here I'm running that allows you to interact with the database. Okay. So for instance, here, this is, the resolution is way too high. I can't see. Why is it so small? Let me change. Let me change the resolution. Can I? Oh, this is not Windows. System preferences. Display. Where's display? Display. Let me go a little lower. Okay, that's a little better. Even lower. Okay, there we go. Okay, how do you dismiss this? Go away. All right, here we go. Let me make sure this is still recording. Not me. Okay, it's recording, right? Hey, can anybody check to make sure that I am indeed recording my YouTube channel? Anyway, so here I'm connected to the database, and you can create all sorts of schemas. So let's create a schema for this course. I'll call it CS5200, and apply. And yes, close. And then here I can create all sorts of tables here. So let's create one for our application kind of IDE that we were looking at very early on in one of the earlier homeworks. So let's create a table for developers, right? So let's create a developer, right? Singular. I never like to use a plural, especially since your plural names are not necessarily consistent, right? Some have S's, some don't, and the plural is not consistent, right? And then you have to remember when you name these things on how you say singular and how you say plural. Some entities don't have a plural, like fish, right? You won't say fishes, right? So just fish, right? So anyway, so here we're going to create an ID. ID, it's going to be a primary key, unique, although primary key already says it's unique. And a developer has what? Maybe a first name, maybe has a last name, maybe they have an email. Okay, so let's just keep it at that, right? And then I might if I look here, if I see my tables, if I say apply, wait, that's not the schema. Wait, where's my schema? Wait a minute. Oh, here, it's this one. Sorry. Did this apply select name confident since developer? Oh, I'm writing in the wrong schema. I'm sorry. Let me close all this. Close all tab. Close all the tabs. Close. Don't save. Don't save. Okay, yeah, it's trying to create it. It's trying to create it here, and I really want this schema, so I'm going to set this as my default schema. Okay, under there, I'll create the tables. Create table, and in here, what would we say, developer? And in here, we'll say ID. It's primary key, and again, this is username, and maybe this is password. First name and last name and email. Okay, all right, that's good. Let me apply, and that's going to save it. Okay, that looks right. ID, primary key, very good. So apply. So we created it, and I can then see my tables here. I see the developers. I can see all the columns that we just created. We can create a template to insert something in here. So let's do create or send to a SQL editor. I want to set to be able to insert. So it creates a template for me to start inserting data in here, right? So let me just say maybe, oh, you know what we forgot to do? Let me open up developer again. It's here. I'm going to alter it. I'm going to say that I want this to be auto incremented, right? So I don't want to have to deal with the IDs of the developers. I want it to so that every time I insert a new record, it will automatically create the ID for me. Okay, I'm going to apply, and it's going to alter. It's altering the database. Let's say apply. Very good. So let's go back to inserting. So for the IDs, I'm not going to provide an ID. I'm just going to say null. For the username, actually, let me make this a little bit easier to read. Oh, did I say password? Really? Okay, fine, whatever. Email, and here are the values. Okay, and for username, let's see, we'll create maybe Alice. Notice the single quotes. Password, maybe it'll be just Alice again. I'll keep it simple. Alice, first name, perhaps it'll be Alice. Last name will be Wonderland. And email will be alice@wonderland.com. Okay, so I can choose everything and click here, and it'll insert a record. And I can then select those records. I can go to developer. I can say, select all rows, right? And it comes out to be just Alice. Yes, just Alice is in there. Let me create a couple more here so that we populate something here. Let's add Bob. This is Bob. Marley, and this will be maybe bob@marley.com. Okay, and I'll just choose that and execute that, and that now gives me at least 2 developers. One more. We'll do, let's see, Charlie. Charlie. And this is Charlie Garcia. So this is Charlie @Garcia. So let me run that, execute it. Okay, now we have 3 developers. Okay, we have those 3 developers. Everybody okay? All right. So let's. How would we access this from a web, from an application? Right. That's basically what we want to do. A lot of you have come to me that you're getting antsy that how do I get started, right? So let's create a couple things here. Let's go back to my IDE, and I will create a brand new application. Oh, when you download Eclipse, so download Eclipse. The version that you need to download is this one, Eclipse IDE for Java EE developers. Okay, Java EE developers, Enterprise Edition. Okay, for Mac OS. You'll install it locally. It's just a zip file. You'll unzip it, right, and you'll either drop it in at the root of the Windows, right? Or you'll drop it into the applications directory in Mac OS. You will also download Tomcat. Download Tomcat. The latest Tomcat is 8. Tomcat 8. And you download it as a zip file. Okay, and you unzip it locally on your directory. Yes? Anywhere, just remember where you put it. Okay, just remember where you put it. Once you do that, in the Eclipse folder, there is an Eclipse executable. In Mac OS, I dragged that executable and I put it in my start down here. No, it's not called start in Mac. What's it called? What is this called down below? I forget. The doc. Thank you. So anyway, so let's create a new project. Oh yes, I created a new server, right? So that Tomcat we downloaded, right? That Tomcat that we downloaded, it's actually I have it installed. Where do I have it? I have it in user. I installed it here in user local. Okay, under there I have Apache Tomcat, right? I unzipped it there, right? And so this is the installation directory of Tomcat. Okay, so in Eclipse, you would first have to create a server project that will be shared across all other projects, right? So you have to declare a project. So for that, you need to go to server. You create new server, and you have to say, oh, I have Tomcat 8, right? And basically what you need to do is you need to tell it, where is it? Physically, where is it? Oh, I already have one. Configure, download, I already have one. How about a 7? How's that? Okay, I don't have a 7. Now you have to browse to where it's installed locally on your machine. You have to tell it, where is it? Okay? That's all you need to tell it. Right? Everything else, it'll know where to find the start and stop. Right? It'll know where to start and how to stop it. Right? So you would go to user local. It's 7, right? So it There it is. I would say that it's this one. I would say open, right? And I would continue and install it. Okay? But I'm not going to do it because I already did it for Tomcat 8. And I have it already. It would appear here as a servers directory. Everybody okay? All right. Now that I have a server configured, I can create a new application. I'm going to say a new other, and I'll create a, most of us are doing web development, so it will be a dynamic web project. Okay, a dynamic web project. So it's under, you have to say what type of project are you working on. And we are under web, and it's a dynamic web project. We say next. I'll call it, what do I call it? The developer, I'll call it CS5200. And that server I created earlier, right? It would be listed here. All my servers would be listed here, and you have to select where do you want to deploy your web project. That's that one. I'm not going to change anything else. I'm going to say next, next. This is optional to generate the web.xml. I personally like to generate it. We're not going to use it much, not until we talk about advanced topics, but I'm going to generate it. I don't need it right now. I'll generate it, and it appears here. There it is, CS5200. Your HTML, your JSPs, everything that you're going to, anything user interface will go under the web context. Right, so any web pages, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, all that will go under web content, right? So I'm going to create a very simple page. I'm going to say new HTML file or JSP. Most of us, I believe, we're going to be doing JSP. So I'll get started with that, JSP. JSPs is almost like HTML, but these are server-side pages that are going to be compiled and are going to give you HTML. Right now, I'm going to say hello.jsp. But it generates mostly HTML plus some magical stuff up here. Okay, but most of it is HTML, right? And we're going to stick to HTML for a while. So we're going to say h1 hello world. Okay, and we're going to run it, and it's going to say, oh, you want to run CS5200 as a web project running on Tomcat? So I'm going to say yes. I'm going to run it. Ooh, wait a minute. What am I running? Oh, no, that's not what I want. Run on a server. That's what I want to do. Run on a server. It says, okay, you want to, oh, it's already started? Why is it already started? I had something running already. Oh, crap. Next, let's see. Will this work? Restart. Okay, good. Gonna restart. Okay, stop. It's deploying. The server restarted, and here we have hello world. Right? This browser, it's using the built-in browser in the IDE. It's pretty limited browser, right? Preferably, you would instead use a real browser. Okay, and paste it there and use this instead. Okay, so it's a much better for development. Everybody still okay with me? All right, let's access the database. That's what we really want. So we're gonna go here in our top level. I'm gonna say I want a new class. I want a new Java class, by default, it's going to put it in the source directory, which is one of these directories here. I'll show you. Actually, if you go here, the Java resources, in there, this is the source directory where it's going to put all your Java code. Okay, so we're going to say I want a new class. The class, we're going to try and retrieve those developers we inserted earlier. So to do that, we're going to call it developer DAO, right? All database access, right? We're going to centralize in DAOs, right? Data access object. It's a design pattern, something that has been proven to work very well right, to centralize all data access into specialized classes, as opposed to, you know, just putting it everywhere. Okay. Also, by default, it's going to put it in the root package, meaning right here in the source directory. But it's always a good idea to break up your classes into dedicated packages. So I'm going to put it under edu. I'm going to use the reverse domain name of the university. Right? That's a very common naming convention, right? To organize your data, your classes. So it's edu.neu. So that's the domain, right? neu.edu. So it's backwards. And then this course, CS5200. And then the name of the project. It's called CS5200, my project. We'll call it, I don't know. It's an IDE, right? It's an online IDE. How's that? Online IDE. And in there, I'm going to put my DAOs. All my DAOs, I'm going to put them under a package called DAO. Is that okay? And I'm going to generate a main. Let's say finish. There it is. And just make sure, let's make sure that this can run. I'm going to say system.out.println hello. Hello world from my DAO. And I'm going to run this. Notice that it remembers the last thing you executed, right? Really, I want to run this class as a standalone Java application. Right, so I'm going to run that. It'll compile, and there it is. It runs as it says "Hello World" right in the console. Everybody okay? All right. So we want to hit that database. To do that, we're going to write some code. We're going to be using an API that allows me to connect to database to MySQL. So I'm going to say JDBC MySQL. Anybody has a plug for a Mac, for an older Mac? No. One of the things that you'll need to do is download the JDBC connector, right? The JDBC connector allows Java programs to connect to MySQL, right? You want to download the platform-independent version. You download. I've downloaded already, and I have it in my downloads directory. And it's called MySQL connector. There it is, right? It downloads as a zip file or a tar file. I unzipped it, and in there you have a jar file in there. You see that jar file? You need to put that jar file in your project so that you can connect to it, right? So let me see here. Where is my Eclipse? Here's my Eclipse. I'm going to minimize all this so I can see it all in the same directory. I'm going to drag that jar file. I'm going to drag it into this lib directory. You see this lib directory? I'm going to drag that in there. Where is it? Drag it in here. Although you could also do the build class path as well, but I'm going to copy it. So I'm going to drag that in here. I'm going to drag it in there. There it is. It just says, you want to copy the file? Yes. I'm going to copy that file. And I also want to add it to my build path. I'm going to say to my build path, add to build path. That means that now all Java classes will see this jar file, right? And all the classes in there, all the libraries. So now it's available from inside of my DAO. I can use it from my DAO. All right, so let's put some code to connect to MySQL. And here's a connecting to MySQL using the JDBC driver manager. And let's copy the code here. There it is. Here's how I connect to it. I'm going to copy that. So I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to say here, I'm going to say public static void test connection. And I'm going to paste that in there. So I want to create a new connection. It's complaining it doesn't know what connection it is, but it's parsing my class path, looking for all sorts of libraries, and it's suggesting, is it Java.SQL? Is it MySQL? What is it? I know it's this one. It's Java.SQL, right? It's part of this is part of the Java SQL package, which is JDBC, Java's database connectivity, and we will extensively cover that in the upcoming lectures. Here's a very brief, crash course on how to do that. Driver manager as well. I'm going to include that as well. And this is the URL, the connection string that allows me to identify where in the world is my connection. And it's JDBC MySQL, localhost, and then the schema that I want to connect to. What's my schema name? Was it CS5200? Is that the schema? I forget. Yes, CS5200. That's the schema I want to connect to. So it's CS5200. And that's it. That's all I'm going to provide. Right. I also have to provide username and password. My username is root, and I never set a password, so it's null. Okay. And it's complaining about something. What's complaining about? It says that this throws an exception, right? Be careful, this throws an exception. So I'm just going to say, well, surround this in a try-catch block. That's it, right? If it's successful, I am going to print this. I'm going to say system.out.println the connection. And if it's null, it'll probably throw some kind of exception. But let's run this and see if it comes back different than null. Hello world. Oh, it's still running the hello world. Oh man. No, I want to run this one. Let's run. Oh, wait a minute. We have to call that method, right? We need to call that method. So we'll call it like this. We say developer DAO dot test connection. There it is. Oh, it is running this one. I never call that function, right? Let's run it again. Okay, it's not null, and it didn't throw an exception. So we're in business. We have connected to a database. Very good. So let's very quickly encapsulate this. Okay, we know we're able to connect. I'm not going to make it static, and I'm going to make it so that this actually gets me a connection, get connection, and returns to me an instance of that connection. And instead of printing it out, it's just going to return the connection. Okay. If something fails, I am going to just return null. Okay. Right. Let's select all the data that is in that database, right? So let's have a public list. Well, actually, no. Let's just say void for now. Find all or select all. Select all. Okay. And here I'm going to first get the connection. Get connection. Okay. And once I have the connection, I want to execute the following SQL. I want to do a select star from the what was the name of the table? Developer? Developer, no? Developer, yes, developer. So I want to select that, and I want to execute this. To execute it, I'm going to create a prepared statement from the connection. I'm going to say connection.prepare statement, and I'll give it a SQL. It's complaining because it doesn't have a prepare, so I'm gonna load that. Not the com MySQL JDBC. Okay, although that would work. We're going to use the generic interface Java SQL. Okay, and it's complaining, saying that this might throw an exception, so I'm going to surround it in a try-catch block. There it is. Low battery. It's going to die in a few seconds. So I'm going to do statement dot execute query. Execute query. Where is it? Execute query. Where are you? There it is. Execute query. It's going to actually execute the query, and it's going to return to me a result set. Results. Okay. I'm going to import results as well. Maybe if I lower. I can't see anything. Okay, there it is. Okay, now that I have results, what I could do is iterate over the results, right? I can say if the results has more more elements, more rows to iterate over, I want to retrieve the first name. I want to retrieve from the current row that I'm sitting on, right? I want to get a column, a string, a varchar, right? I'm going to retrieve a varchar from a column that is called first name, right? And I want to display it. I'm going to say system.out.println first name. Okay, I'm going to display it. So let's see if this works. Let's run this again. Maybe not. Oh, I never called that function. Duh. You know what's scary? If it actually worked. Okay, so I'm going to create an instance of the developer DAO, right? So here's the DAO, new developer DAO, right? And I'm going to call the select all. Okay, let's try that again. There it is, Alice, Bob, and Charlie, right? So we are in business, right? We are retrieving data from the database, right? I can retrieve all the values. I can retrieve each individual thing, right? So I can retrieve the last name. So I retrieve last name, last, right? I can retrieve, email. I can retrieve username, right? Username. What else can I retrieve? Password. What else can I retrieve? Email. Anyway, what do I do with this once I have it? Right? What do I do with all this? Right? I already had email. Crap. All right, ID. ID is an integer, right? And so I'm retrieving a get an int from a field called ID. There it is. So what do I do with all this? Typically, what I want to be able to do is store this in a data model, right? So for that, I'm going to create a brand new object. I'm going to say, and store everything in there. So it's a developer. I'm going to create a developer instance, a developer, new developer, which should take as argument all this stuff. ID, username, password, first name, last name, and what else? Email. Okay. It's complaining, saying that I don't have such a class. So I'm going to say, well, please create it for me. Create class. Create the developer class. But I don't want to put it in the DAO. I want to put it in my entity. Okay. All right. So it's declared. Did it declare it? What? Really? It didn't create any of my fields? Are you serious? Anyway, I'll just copy this. I'll copy this. I'll go to the developer. I'll just paste it here. I'm just going to take all this stuff, all this garbage out. Right? All this is, I don't need this. I don't need this. I don't need that. I don't need that. And obviously, these would all be private, right? It would be all private. I'm not going to do that, but typically you make these all private. We also need, what else do we need? We need to generate all the setters and getters for all these guys, right? So we're going to generate all the setters and getters for all of them. Generate. There they are. And I want a constructor. I want a constructor. Also here, constructor using the fields, all the fields. I want to select, we're using all the fields. There it is. They're in the wrong order, though. Or are they? Let me see. I think it was ID, username, password, blah, blah, blah. So the ID goes first. So let me put the ID first. There it is. I will also need a no argument constructor. It's always a good idea to have a no argument constructor. So I'll create a constructor using fields. I don't want any of the fields. Deselect all of them. It'll just be a blank constructor. There it is. Wait, I don't want it there. What? Why would you put it there? Create a constructor with no fields. To select all. Oh, there it is. Are you serious? All right, whatever. Public, developer. There, it's faster. Okay, no argument constructor. So now I have a list of these, right? I have a developer, and but I have one instance of a developer. Typically, what I want to do is group them together in a list of developers. So I'm going to create a list of developers here. I'm going to say I'm going to create a list of developers, right? Developers is equal to a new array list of developers. Okay. I need to include all these. So lists, I need to load from Java util, and array list is also from Java util. Come on. Java util. And you know, as I have these instances of developers, I'm going to populate my developers into the list. I'm going to add each developer, and I'm going to return here. I'm going to return developers, right? So now instead of returning void, right, I should return a list of developers. Okay, copy paste. Now from outside, I can receive a list of developers, right? From outside, right? I can retrieve all this, and now I can iterate over this. I can say, you know, I'm going to iterate over the developer D in developers, right? And as I can iterate over each one of these out.println, right? D dot, you know, get username. Right, so if I run this now, hopefully I'll get the usernames. Oops, password. Oh, I spelled it right. It's actually password without the D, right? No D, right? Yeah, let's run it again. There it is. Wait a minute. That's not right. Those are what? Those are these guys, right? Huh? The constructor is wrong? Oh, it's username. Email. So email first? Huh? Line 40. Oh, duh. I hate computers. They're always right. They always do exactly what they're told. That still doesn't work. I bet the order of my constructor is wrong, probably. Right? Anyway, yes, I'm getting data. Let me see. Username, password, first name, last name, email. And the constructor is first name, last name, email, username, and password. Right? The order is completely wrong, right? So anyway, I'm getting developers. Let's create a developer. How about that? Let's create a developer. So notice what happens now is that now the access to the database of retrieving data is behind a very nice interface, right? It's behind a nice function that I can reuse anytime. I should not forget that I should close the connection. I should close the connection. So I'm going to do finally call a function close connection, the connection, right? Which is this connection that we got earlier, and we're going to we don't have a function for close connection, so I'm going to create the function. There it is. And what's going to do is going to try and say try connection dot close. Actually, let me take out the try, and it's not going to complain, right? Complain. There we go. I'm going to just surround it with try catch. Okay, this is somewhat of a naive design. Typically, we don't want the DAOs to manage their own connections, right? Usually, the connection is either provided to it by someone outside, right, or by some kind of DAO manager, right, that handles a common connection that all DAOs could use, as opposed to each DAO managing their own connection, right? But this is a very quick example on how you would go about. Let's create now a brand new user. How about that? Let's have here, public void, or maybe create the new developer that we created, developer. So create, and takes as argument a developer, developer. This developer is a brand new developer, so it doesn't have an ID, right? It doesn't have an ID. But the developer we're going to return will be synchronized with the database, right? It will have, obviously, it will have the same data you passed us, plus the ID that it did not have originally, right? Okay. So let's get a connection again. Connection from get connection, right? Oops. And here we're going to do a string, the SQL. We're going to say create, not create, insert into what? What's the name? Developer, right? Developer. The following columns, right?